Hello everyone, this is the first lesson of week 6. Our lesson today is about fertilization and the formation of seed and fruit. If you remember in the previous lesson, we talked about pollination. We talked about pollination and we said pollination is the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma. This process of pollination, we said it's one stage of reproduction in plants. After pollination, a next step it will happen, we call it fertilization. So in our lesson today, we will see what's fertilization and what are the steps of fertilization. Firstly, our objectives for this lesson are, firstly, you should be able to define fertilization. You should be able to know what's fertilization, to give definition of it. Second one, you should be able to understand the role of pollen tube. We will see what is pollen tube. Here it's pollen tube. We will talk about it then. And also, you should be able to know the parts of flower. Okay, the part of flower we talked about them last lesson, so also we will review it again today. Then by reviewing the parts of flower, we will see which part will turn to be fruit and which part will turn to be seed. As you can see, our topic is formation of seed and fruit. We will see how we can get seeds and also how we can get fruit. And the last objective is you should be able to understand that a seed contains food store as well as an embryo. We will see when we will study the seed what are the things that we can find it inside a seed. Fertilization follows pollination. Last lesson, we explained what's pollination. Again, pollination, transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma. Now, after pollination, what will happen? Or what are the changes that it will happen? The next step in plant's reproductive process is fertilization. Okay, first step it's pollination. Next step it's fertilization. What do you mean by fertilization? The meaning of fertilization, or definition of fertilization, it's what? It's the fusion of the male and female gametes. We have, when we say the pollen will transfer to the stigma, okay, this pollination, so where are the parts, or what are the parts that are involved in this process? They are pollen, okay, then pollen will goes to the stigma, and then what will happen after landing on stigma? The pollen tube, it will form, and then it will fuse, the pollen will fuse with the egg or with the ovule. The diagram on the right shows how the nucleus from the pollen, okay, grains travel down a pollen tube to combine with the nucleus of ovum. If you look at this diagram, here the green part, it's what? It's the female reproductive organ. It's the pistil. We call it pistil. It consists of this part, stigma, style, and the third one, it's the ovary. Now, the pollen grain, okay, from anther, it will land on the stigma, okay. Then, pollen grain, chemical signals released by the stigma ensure that a pollen tube is only produced when pollen lands on a stigma of the same species. When the pollen will land on the stigma will release specific chemical signals, okay, to ensure this pollen, it belongs to the same species, okay? Because when we say pollen will land on stigma, okay, but maybe this pollen, it belongs to another species. It's not the same species. So the pollen from different species, it will not grow. It will not form a pollen tube. Only a pollen from the same species will make the tube, and the process will continue. So how this process it will happen? It's happen by chemical signals, okay? Then after making sure the pollen belong to the same species, the next step it's what? Pollen tube. Formation of pollen tube. As you can see this is the tube. We call it pollen tube. This pollen tube, it grows down through the style. This is the part, this is the style, okay, and acts as a channel to deliver the male gamete from pollen grain to the female gamete in the ovule. So if you will have a question, it says what is the role or what is the function of the pollen tube in the fertilization? You will say it acts as a channel to deliver the male gamete from the pollen here, okay, to the female gamete in the ovule. After that, the formation of fruit and seed. When the nucleus of pollen, it will fuse with the ovule. This is, we call it fertilization. After fertilization, okay, what will happen? Fertilization occurs when the haploid male and female gametes fuse to form diploid zygote. Okay, now after forming the zygote, what will happen? So after the male nucleus has fused with the ovum, the resulting zygote divides many times to produce an embryo. Okay, the development of a seed and the structure of the embryo are described in the diagram here, on this diagram. Now, this it's female reproductive organ. Now we will deal with this part. Okay, this part, what do we call this part, or what is the name of this part? This part we call it ovary. This part we call it ovary. Inside all of it, it's ovary. Inside ovary we have what? We have ovule. Okay, now our topic is how the seed and fruit it will form. So after fertilization and forming the zygote, okay, the embryo it will form. Then the ovary, all of it, will be fruit. The ovule inside the ovary will turn to be seeds. Okay, again, the ovary will be fruit. The ovule inside the ovary, it will be seed. Okay, just to understand, to better understand this, how it will be, just imagine when you have, for example, apple. Apple, it's what? It's a fruit. Inside it, inside the apple, there is what? There are many seeds. Okay, the fruit by itself, the apple by itself, it was what? It was ovary. The seeds inside the apple, they were what? They were the ovule. So after these changes, maybe someone will ask, Mr., what will happen to the other parts of flower? For example, petal, sepal, anther, filament. What will happen to these organs? Okay, after fertilization, okay, seeds send hormone message to the flower, okay, and some changes it will happen. Sepal, petal wither away and may fall off. Stamens, stigma, style also wither away. So what will happen to the other parts? All of them, it will wither away, or maybe they will fall. So stages in the development of fruit. Here it's a fruit, tomato. Okay, firstly, as you can see, it starts as what? It starts as flower. Tomato flowers. The petals are still obvious. Okay, the petals, as you can see, this, the colored one, still it's showing. Then after that, what happened? Okay, can you see any petals here? No. Okay, so after fertilization, the petals have fallen off, the stigma and the style have withered, and the carpel is beginning to swell. Carpel, here, what do you mean by carpel? It's the ovary. Okay, and the ripe fruit, the ovary, okay, the ovary wall is swollen and succulent. The formation of seed and fruit following fertilization. So here are the steps that it shows how the seed and the fruit it will be formed. We already explained it here, okay, but here now they are the steps. We say firstly what we will have fertilization. Fertilization, the gamete, the male gamete will fuse with the female gamete. Now, this, it's the ovary, okay? The stigma and style, they will fall. There will be no stigma and style anymore. Now, what do we have? We have the wall, the ovary wall. The ovary wall, it will form the it will be the fruit, okay? And because we, as you know, we have different types of foods. Some of them, they have dry and hard walls, okay? So this depends on the species of the plant. And then here, this is the ovule. Now we call it fertilized ovule. Why? Because the gamete, the male gamete, it fused with the female gamete here. So this seed, the fertilized seed, or the fertilized ovule, it will turn to be seed. Fertilized ovule develops into a seed. Now, if we will take the seed and zoom it in, we will see it consists of these parts. The seed, firstly, it has the cover of it, or they call it seed coat or tester. The function of it, it's to what? It's to, because it's a cover, so it will prevent drying out of the embryo. This is the embryo, all of it. Okay, the green one, all of it, it's the embryo. So the function of seed coat or tester, it's to prevent it from drying. Then now, inside the seed, what do we have? We have these parts. We have 1, 2, and 3. These three, each one, it has a specific function. The first one, we call it cotyledon, seed leaves. Cotyledon, okay? This also, it depends on the species of plant. Some species, we call them monocotyledon. Others, we call them dicotyledons. What's that mean? Some plants, the seed, it will have only one leaf. Okay, if it's one leaf, this we will call it monocotyledons, such as grass. Okay, but if it have 2 leaves, okay, we will call it it means 2, dicotyledons, such as peas and beans. For example, bean, if any kind of bean, okay, if you will take a seed of them, if you will put it in water, then you can break it into, you can open it. When you will open it, you will see it consists of 2 parts, okay? It's like 2 layers, 2 parts. These parts, what do you mean by them? The cotyledon. We call them dicotyledon because when you can open it, when you will open it, you will see it, it will be 2 parts, okay? Then Inside this one, we have plumule. Plumule and radicle. Plumule and radicle. As you can see the positions of them. Inside the seed, there is what? There is embryo. This embryo, when it will grow, it will form the root and shoot. Shoot will be the stem and leaves, and root, it goes down. So from where it will form? So the plumule, it's the young shoot. So this part, the plumule, the upper one, this it will be it will form the stem and then leaves and flowers and so on. This part, the radicle, this part we call it will turn to be a root. So this radicle, it will then grow and form the root. These two parts, the plumule and radicle, both of them, they form what? Or they make up what? They make up the embryo. So here it's the embryo. Okay, this is the embryo. It consists of two parts, the upper one and the lower one, the plumule and the radicle. Then, as you can see, the coat here, it has an opening. This opening, we call it what? We call it micropyle. Micropyle, the function of it, it's what? It enables the oxygen, water and oxygen enters the seed so it can goes to the embryo. Remember, the carpel becomes the fruit. Okay, the carpel becomes the fruit, or you can say the ovary becomes the fruit. It's the same thing. And the ovule, it becomes the seed. This is the main part of our lesson. Okay, then fruit or vegetable. As you know, we have fruits and we have vegetables. The main difference between them, or how you can differentiate between these plants, are they fruits or vegetables, it will depend on the seeds. If there are seeds in this plant, now we will call it fruit. If it doesn't have any seeds, so this is vegetable. Okay, this is by looking, but how it will form, or why some of them they have seeds and others they don't, it's here. If it's been formed following the fertilization, okay, it is a fruit. If there is no sex involved, it is vegetable. Okay, as you can see here, they bold the letters. Fertilization, fruit. Okay, no sex involved, so it's vegetable. That's why, for example, potato. Is there any seeds in potato? No. So because there is no seed, so that's mean it is a vegetable. If we will take tomato as an example, tomato, is there any seeds in tomato? Yes. So because there are seeds, so it is a fruit. One more thing, it's some information about seeds. Not all seeds are edible because some kinds of seeds, it contains some chemicals that are toxic, or that are poison. For example, uncooked castor oil seeds contain a deadly poison, which is resin. Another example, almonds contains cyanide. Okay, don't eat too much marzipan, since this is made from almond paste. So questions. Question number 1. In one sentence, explain the difference between pollination and fertilization. Pollination, as we mentioned before, it's the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma. Fertilization, it's the fusion of male gamete with the female gamete. Question number 2. Draw a simple diagram of a typical hermaphrodite flower. On your diagram label the parts that fall off after fertilization, the parts that develop into a fruit. When you will draw a typical hermaphrodite, we said it's a plant that it will have both male and female reproductive organs on the same plant. Now, for the answer for the A, when you will draw them, okay, label the parts that it will fall after fertilization. As we mentioned here, okay, the parts that it will fall after fertilization: sepal, petal, stamen, stigma, style. Okay, so this is the answer for this question. You will draw a flower, and after that you will mention these parts: sepal, petal, stamen, stigma, and style. B, the part that develop into fruit. Which part it will develop into fruit? We say it's either you will say the carpel, or you will say the ovary. Okay, carpel will be fruit. Inside it there is ovule. It will be seed. Question number 3, define the word seed. Okay, if we want to give definition for seed, we will say seed, it's the part of a fruit that can develop after their germinations into a young plant. Question number 4, classify each of the following as fruit, seed, or neither fruit nor seed. We have these examples, okay? Now, we need to classify each one of them. We will say, for example, tomato, is it fruit, is it seed, or it's neither fruit or seed? If we will start with the first one. Tomato. Okay, tomato. How we will know if it's fruit or seed, or it's neither fruit or seed? Okay, let's take tomato. Let's start describe tomato, how it is. We say the main difference between fruit, or it's like how we can know this is a fruit. We will see if it has seeds in it. Okay, so tomato, does it have seeds in it? Yes. So because yes, so tomato, it's what? It is fruit. Then next one, cucumber. Can we, again, the same question, can we find seeds inside it? The answer is yes. Because it's yes, so also cucumber, it will be fruit. Next example, Brussels sprout. Brussels sprout, this kind of plant, it belongs to the family. It's like broccoli and cabbage. It belongs to this family. This kind of plant, if you will ask this question, does it have any seeds in it? So the answer is no. So it's not a fruit. But can we regard it as a seed? Also, it's not. Okay, so Brussels sprout, it's neither fruit nor seed. Then next example, it's baked beans. From its name, bean, all of us, we know that beans are what? Beans are seeds. Then another example we have runner bean. Runner bean, if you will search about runner bean, it has seeds in it. So runner bean, we can consider it as example of fruit. Next one, celery. Celery also, it's not seed, and also it's not a fruit. So celery also, it's neither fruit nor seed. Then pea. Okay, pea, it's what? It's seeds. Okay, grape. It's what? It's fruit. Why? Because grape, inside it we can find the seeds. So dear students, this was everything for fertilization and developing the fruit and seeds. I hope everything it was clear. Please, your task for this lesson is to solve the questions on your workbook. I hope everything it was clear. Please watch the video, write a comment. If you have any suggestions, any opinions, okay, please mention it, please write them. Thank you and have a good day.